I'm Mark Dresner, and this is the Research Insider, a special interview series featuring experts and leaders in consumer and shopper research. The Research Insider is brought to you by the annual Shopper Insights in Action Conference, uniting the world's top manufacturers and retailers to activate intelligence and drive basket growth. Joining me today is John Whitaker. He's the Vice President of Consumer and Market Insights at Lowe's Companies. Research has changed quite a bit in the last 20 years. What have you seen? What are you seeing today?
I think part of the challenge is we've got to rethink our deliverables and think more critically about the role of each deliverable. There is a role for the data dump. I don't want to minimize that, but it has one specific purpose, and that's not something that's going to get shared with the executive community. Right. And so multiple deliverables is the key to this, but the cornerstone is that compelling story that really engages emotionally the audience, that then brings those insights to life in a way that people naturally want to action upon them.
What can the client do to help the research providers and partners that they work with to really be able to deliver this kind of work, because it is more difficult?
Absolutely. One of the things we have to do a good job with is partnering with our external firms that we work with and providing them context for the business question. Why, for example, is this customer segment so important to this team in marketing? What's the driver behind that? What business actions will we take based on this work? We also have the responsibility to provide an overview of past work that might have been done in that area, or past industry studies that provide further context for the business problem at hand. So we have that role to make sure all the relevant information is brought to bear, because ultimately a compelling story can't be created from just one study. You've got to bring together all these different separate pieces and put them together in a way that really tells the full picture and the full story of the customer.
Yeah, and one last thing, John, and that's speed. Everybody talks about speed. Isn't this going to, add on, it's certainly going to be a little more labor intensive or a little more mentally intensive, but what about speed? As you said, a person can churn out their stats in those decks pretty quickly when somebody needs it. Is that an issue?
Yeah, and I've thought a lot about that, and both speed and cost, both of those issues, and there's been a lot of pressure, I know, on firms to quicker, cheaper. But I think that's been driven in part because of the lack of a storytelling deliverable. If I'm not getting that really high quality deliverable, then of course I'm going to demand, I want it quicker and cheaper. What we find is the robustness of these super high quality deliverables are so impactful, folks are willing to wait for that. They're willing to wait to get something that creates that emotional engagement. And ultimately, the key thing here is that when you deliver that really powerful report, it actually saves time. It saves us time on the back end, because right now is a great example, a totally separate study, very comprehensive in its scope and scale. The manager leading up that study, right now she has an empty work pod, and it's covered every wall with slides from all these different data dump decks, and she's just trying to make sense of this just tsunami of data and information she has to try to ferret out what the story is. And she spends weeks and weeks on this. Now, the deliverable she produces is amazing, but that time and energy, granted she got the information quickly, it's cheaply, but still, we can't just unleash that on the organization because they won't use it. Right. They won't be able to digest it or understand it, and it'll become another one of those things that goes into the file cabinet and never sees the light of day again.
Yeah. Well, fantastic points, John. Thanks for sitting down with us today.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you, Mark.
Great to have you. And that concludes this episode of the Research Insider. Until next time, I'm Mark Dresner, and you've just heard the Inside Scoop.